Right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and a king's-size welcome to what is destined to be a fabulous, an inspiring and hugely competitive evening because, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Policy Idol 2026! Hooray! Policy Idol is now 12 years old. Yeah, I know. Not so much an annual fixture as a tradition, almost an institution. 12 years old, which means that if it was a person, it could go to the cinema alone and watch 12A movies like Spielberg's War of the Worlds with its sustained menace, threat, and moderate horror, or Flash Gordon with moderate violence and sex references. Now, I'm not suggesting that those are attributes of Policy Idol, not in previous years anyway, but the night is young and there is wine, an array of international snacks, and fierce rivalry in the room. Anything might happen. So hopefully you all have a rough idea of why you're here and haven't just wandered in, lured by the scent of chorizo. Some of the most brilliant minds from the student body here at King's have emerged from a punishing, sifting process as the 7 finalists in this year's hunt for the Policy Idol Champion 2026. Each of the 7 teams will present a policy idea before being cross-examined by our panel of policy experts. There they are, ladies and gentlemen. You might think that the judging panel on Britain's Got Talent is tough. Think again. We have some of the most formidable minds from planet policy, from the epicenter of the wonkosphere itself. It's the same every year, honestly. Allow me to introduce them to you. We have, if you could wave when I say your name, that would be helpful. We have Baroness Deborah Mattinson, a Labour peer who holds the world record for holding the role of Sir Keir Starmer's Director of Strategy. 3 years, they say, is a hell of a long time in Downing Street. Deborah is a sought-after political consultant who likes a challenge, advising Neil Kinnock, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, and most recently the Democratic Party in the United States. Baroness Louise Casey is a crossbench peer and policy guru whose insight and acumen have seen 5 prime ministers of different hues and styles seek her guidance on a range of troublesome issues, from homelessness to dodgy cops, grooming gangs to social care. The label Casey Review is so ubiquitous upon Whitehall shelves that government should probably buy a job lot and be done with it. Lord David Willits is a Conservative peer, former policy advisor to Margaret Thatcher before being elected to the Commons and joining John Major's government. His fierce intellect led to the nickname Two Brains, and realizing that, David Cameron appointed one of his brains as Minister for Universities and the other for Minister of Science. He now chairs the Regulatory Innovation Office and is president of the think tank Resolution Foundation. And our final judge is, of course, Professor Bobby Duffy, Professor of Public Policy and Director of the Policy Institute here at King's. He also knows the inside of the Prime Minister's Strategy Office, Unit Office in number 10, but has since become one of the country's foremost advocates for social science and for challenging lazy assumptions. If intellectual heft was solidified and compressed, our judging panel would still fill a shipping container. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for your Policy Idol judges. But if any of you have been to one of these before, you will know that they aren't the only judges. Oh no. You, our esteemed audience, will also have your say. After we've heard from all 7 of tonight's Policy Idol wannabes, I will invite you to go online via the web link, the QR code on the card on the tables, and from there you can select and vote for your favorite policy idol. The presentation with the most votes from the audience will win the prestigious audience prize. Each idle contender will pitch their policy idea against the clock. They have precisely 3 minutes to convince the judges who will mark their presentation on substance and on style. How well did they marshal the evidence to support their policy idea? How well would it work, and how would they sell it? They have 3 minutes, as I say. Go under, wasted seconds. Go over, and the judges may deduct marks. My gorgeous and massively overqualified assistant, Suzanne, has a whistle. Thank you, proper whistling, which will blow at the 3-minute mark. If they are still going at 3.5 minutes, a trap, you can't see it from where you're sitting, there is a trap door on the stage which will open up, and the pictures will be dropped unceremoniously into a bubbling pool of ignominy and humiliation from which there is no escape. And we don't want that, ladies and gentlemen. So the stakes are high. There are 4 prizes, 1 award for the presentation with the greatest substance, another award for the presentation delivered with the greatest style, your audience prize, probably the most important, and last but certainly not least, our overall winner, our Policy Idol 2026. Now, sorry, when I say the phrase Policy Idol 2026, you have to shout. So I'll do that again. And not least, our overall winner, our Policy Idol 2026. Thank you. Now, I know that all 7 of those bidding for high honours here this evening have worked incredibly hard to get here and to be ready for what lies ahead. So as ever, I am, as you have already realised, encouraging both whooping and hollering from all of you to demonstrate your appreciation. You can choose to be a whooper, you can choose to be a hollerer, or something in between. But before we meet our first contenders, let us test out our whooping and hollering one more time on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go right! Excellent, excellent. Keep that up throughout the evening. Now, before we meet this year's finalists, we have a video for you. Often when talking about Policy Idol, I'm asked, well, what happens to all these brilliant ideas after the Policy Idol final is all over? Well, to help answer that, here is last year's Policy Idol winner, Sophia Duplessis, to tell us what happened to her idea, brilliant idea, on how to tackle eating disorders in gyms. Here's the video, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, I'm Sophie Duplessis. I'm an M.Nurse student here at King's, that's a Masters in Adult and Mental Health Nursing. I'm really gutted not to be in the room in person tonight, but I'm actually on a train back from Newcastle as you're watching this, so this was the next best option. I signed up for Policy Idol last year. I made it to the final, and I had the privilege of being mentored by Tian Hagar. I then somehow ended up winning, and while it was a really, really huge surprise, it was an absolute honour, and I've had so many incredible opportunities since that night. My pitch was titled The Fitness Industry and Eating Disorders, a call for safeguarding measures in UK gyms, and it centred on 3 key changes, which was the implementation of screening questionnaires, mandatory staff training, and better public education and resource provision. Essentially introducing a degree of responsibility and accountability within the fitness industry to better protect members and to begin to shift these environments into key spaces for early intervention for an illness that has the highest mortality rate of any mental health condition. The idea was shaped by my own lived experience of an eating disorder and also from my background as a former national level athlete. When I stepped away from competitive sport, I saw more clearly the scale of risk and harm within diet and fitness culture, and also how much this has been amplified in recent years, particularly through social media. I'm so hugely grateful to the Policy Institute, to the judges, to my mentor, and especially to Professor Rachel Mills, who played a key role in supporting and encouraging me to actually bring this to life. Following the final, Rachel kindly connected me with relevant faculty and the gym team at King's. This led to early work with the King's Counselling and Mental Health Service, where I collaborated with the eating disorder lead at the time to deliver an internal training to gym staff. Following that, they agreed to pilot some of the initial screening measures, drawing from a combination of tools that I had proposed. Since then, I've been working to build this more formally and on a national scale through ED Informed, which is a campaign that I established last year. I'm now working with Beat, the UK's eating disorder charity, and over the past 8 months have been fundraising to cover the development costs of a CPD accredited training for gym and fitness staff. Last month, we reached the point of being able to fully fund this. So that means it's now in development with Beat's clinical associate trainers, which is a super exciting step. Looking ahead, the aim is to pilot the training with Kings, hopefully as a potential site if I can secure that on the gym side. And I've been engaging with members from the APPG for eating disorders, and I'm invited to speak at a roundtable event in Parliament next month. I've also applied for a funding grant, which I should hear about next month also. If there's anything I'd say to this year's finalists, it's firstly, congratulations. It is a huge achievement to be here, and I know firsthand the amount of work that goes into this. Secondly, don't let tonight be the end. I know that the ideas that you will be sharing tonight are important and often unaddressed and overlooked, and their impact may not be immediate or obvious, but you never know the seeds that you're planting. A year ago, I would never have believed that I have gotten as far as I have. So to take an idea from something that is just an idea into something tangible is a really incredible opportunity and something that Policy Idol presents as a chance. It takes such courage to stand up on that stage. I know how nerve-wracking it is. My own presentation was far from perfect, and I did feel like I wanted to cry at one point. However, I made it through. And it is okay. And yes, there are judges, but they're not judging you. They're engaging with your idea, which is such an exciting position to be in. So the nerves, they just mean that you care. I am behind you all the way. Go up there, give it your all, and I'll be cheering you on from a train.
Yes, you can clap a video. That's brilliant. That is massively, massively inspiring to see that. And any of us who've been involved in Policy Idol over the years, absolutely brilliant to see how those ideas can leave this room and go and start making a real difference in the big wide world. So fantastic, and well done to Sophie. Right, it is time now, ladies and gentlemen, for Policy Idol 2026. Right. 7 pitches. Pitch number 1. Alia Benny and Ina Prince James are going to talk about youth rewards for community life. If you could come up on the stage, please. How are you feeling?
Great. Nervous?
Yeah. You know, 3 minutes and got your timings right?
Yes.
All will be well. All will be well. Okay. Well, you do have, and Suzanne, you're doing it from the table position. Are you behind? Suzanne has a whistle. That comes at 3 minutes. She's lovely. She'll be fine.
She's a mental.
There we are. You have 3 minutes on youth rewards for community life, starting now.
How many rewards do you have on your phone? Tesco Club Card, Lidl Plus, EE Rewards. These are all kind of schemes that you get points for consuming, and you get discounts and freebies. When you participate and consume, you feel rewarded and included.
Now, imagine if we use the same idea of a loyalty scheme for something more than just your food shop or phone usage. What if the government rewarded young people not for consumption, but for connection, like with youth clubs or libraries?
Youth Rewards for Community Life is this policy. It's a national points-based scheme for 11 to 25-year-olds in which, as they engage in their community, they get points for things they want.
Like Nectar points, but for being active in your community.
Exactly. Currently in the UK, there's not really many third spaces for young people. Take Tyrone, for example. He's lonely and sits in the back of the class. He's a quiet young kid. And after 4 p.m, he has nowhere to go, so he retreats to his room and to his phone.
Now imagine if Tyrone had somewhere to go after school to connect with kids his own age.
And like I said, he's not alone. There's been a 73% drop in local government spending. There's been 4,500 local youth roles lost. And ultimately, the UK is #1 for loneliness among young people.
And loneliness costs, not just socially.
At the same time, the government is in a decade of renewal. We're spending money, but we still have too many seats left empty, especially for low-income backgrounds.
So the government is building spaces, but they are not guaranteed to be used. And the young people who would most benefit from the connection are the least likely to get through the door.
So our policy, Youth Rewards, promises to change that. It's a scheme on a digital card or an app in which they earn points for engaging in their community.
They can also earn extra points with volunteering or mentoring. Check-ins are made simple with a simple card type, staff validation, QR codes with minimal data collection and maximum safeguarding.
And at the same time, once they receive these points, they can spend them on anything they want, from street travel to JD tickets or anything like that.
Crucially, we aim to build fairness, where those from low-income backgrounds and with disabilities earn booster points, so the scheme narrows instead of widen gaps. And there are also offline options for those who don't have smartphones so they don't feel excluded.
Exactly. Ultimately, this doesn't replace the existing policy. It tries to digitalize it and get it to the generation that are sitting on their phones, nudging them into these open spaces.
Youth rewards for community life can help with simple things such as your grocery shop or that pair of trainers that you've had your eyes on while contributing to your community and building your CV.
Ultimately, success would be fuller youth centres and less time spent alone. And it turns nowhere to go to somewhere to be.
So, Suzanne, how many seconds did they have left? 5 seconds.
Oh my God.
Think of that extra fact you could have thrown in there. Now, that was a brilliant way, absolutely brilliant way of starting in the evening, and a really interesting idea too. I know that our panel will be keen to talk to you about all of this. Who would like to start us off? Bobby.
Yeah, brilliant. Really well delivered and such a great idea. Really well communicated. I love that line about rewarded for connection, not consumption. That's a great strap line. You can just see that being used. And it gets to issues that we're really worried about cohesion, community cohesion, loneliness, connection, and young people generally. I suppose the key initial question with all these things is often about the costs of this. Have you thought much about how this is going to be funded?
Yes, I've got a slide.
Do you know what? Every year, I just think how brilliant. She happens to have a slide. How could you possibly have guessed that question? Anyway, there we go.
It's a really great question. So ultimately, we kind of thought about it and we thought, the average app kind of takes 4 to 8K when it's very low level. We're not doing massive data collection, so we don't need a massive background. So it's 4 to 8. We'll do kind of a low-cost pilot around different schools. And then ultimately, we're kind of aiming to scale it up with marketing. It's an app, you get points. It's like a little ad space for these companies who really want to kind of connect with younger kids. And Aaliyah's got a couple of companies that she thinks would be
Yeah, there's
as well.
already there's a list that is out there online with 50 different companies who want to engage with young people, and it kind of kills 2 birds in 1 stone, and they get their social engagement from this initiative as well as helping out an initiative that is meaningful.
Oh, I see. So it's a kind of it's partly funded through that access that these companies would get to young people.
It's public-private partnership.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Deborah.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I love it. But in a way, and it's related to the cost point, but it's not so much about the cost of the mechanism, but how do you ensure that there is enough infrastructure to support what you're doing? So say you're incredibly successful and every single young person between 11 and 25, was it, wants to do this and wants to do it with great enthusiasm. Is the infrastructure there to support it? How would they do it?
So we would rely on schools partly at first. We would rely on schools for the data and for engaging young people, and we'd also rely on youth ambassadors, and we'd get some children or some young people who are kind of popular or that would get people engaged, and we would make sure through schools and ambassador programs that we the infrastructure.
And also on the kind of the bit about the school, so every kid nowadays has a school email. So that's how you validate it. Basically, it's attached to your school email. You can go on this. Also, most schools nowadays have QR tracking and things like that already built in. So it's something that kids already use and already are aware of. So that part's fine. We would also then, when you do apply to be a youth club or a youth centre, this is part of your scheme to have. We would have digital ones, you'd have staff, if the scanner's not working, you'd have staff sitting there who'd be able to manually write people's names down and things like that.
But that's going to be part of the cost, isn't it? Because in the end, if you don't have that backup, so if I, as a young person, decide I want to do something with youth clubs and there isn't a youth club in my area, or, it's actually how how you get in place the things they're going to do, I suppose, is my question.
Yeah, I
Because
think
that's the part of the cost that's not...
yeah.
Yeah. I think for this, it's getting kids out of their room rather than kind of creating the clubs. I think the government has the money. They're spending it on these youth centres and youth hubs. We're just trying to get the kid who's sitting alone and he's found out that, oh, his mate's getting a point. It's for, like, he's got £25 off his trainers. How did he get that? He went out and he played five-a-side football with the club. It's kind of that sort of thing is kind of, the goal is to get people out there. It's not to create the centre.
Yeah, it's using existing resources to build on it and using those with already existing connections to expand a network and make people aware of the different spaces that are available around their house.
Excellent. Yes, Dick.
Can you say a bit more about how exactly the points are earned? What are the activities? Who are the people with the authority to hand out the points? Because you've got potentially a very powerful scheme here, which I think has caught our imagination. But I think we want to know just a bit more about how it would work in practice.
Yeah, so it would be very flexible, and we have very simple systems set up in different public spaces, like libraries, for example, swimming pools. It would be, whenever you take part in an activity in a third space, you earn points through that. So it's not just limited to the youth clubs that Labour is creating. It's also connected to all the different infrastructure that already exists, and shed, light on these spaces and get young people to engage with them.
Yeah, and if so for example, we would have group-based ones. Obviously, we're saying we wouldn't track live location, but you track your check-in and check-out time. So if you go into a library, obviously you could just walk up, scan the thing and run out. But we were saying that basically you scan it in, you sit there, you're studying, you can scan it on the way back out. Obviously, then you'd have a cap, so you wouldn't game the system and just leave your phone there for hours. Also, you then, and then stuff like...
Frankly, if you get to the point where people are gaming your system, it must be a pretty good system.
That's a hope, Yeah.
That was...
Okay, I'm absolutely brilliant way of starting Policy Idol 2026. Thank you very much indeed to Alia and to Ina. Thank you very much indeed. Right, that's done well. So I'm sure I don't need to tell you this, but it would be a good idea just to jot down your thoughts on each of them as we go by, so that when you come to the audience prize at the end of the evening, you can remember, oh yes, what was number one. But a fantastic first entry there. So number two, this is a presentation on the legalization of prediction markets within the UK. Absolutely no idea what that means, but anyway, to help me is Atta Allison and Madison Collett. Right, Atta and Madison, you have got 3 minutes on the legalization of prediction markets, and that starts now.
Prediction markets are platforms where individuals place trades on the outcome of real-world events. Crucially, an event contract can pay out either $1 or nothing, which means you could double your money or lose everything, which is why 70% of retail users lose money on prediction markets. This is a concerning statistic, as prediction markets are a growing industry with a 63 billion annual trading volume per year. And legislation remains contested and fragmented across jurisdictions globally. So it's only natural to ask, well, what could the average retail user on prediction markets actually bet on? Well, for example, whether Jesus Christ will return before 2027. Well, it seems to me, who would bet on these markets? It seems quite frankly absurd.
Well, I would actually. Each contract costs 96 cents and pays out $1, so it's easy money.
Easy money? Well, what if the event contract loses?
Well, in which case, I don't think we'll be judged based on our portfolios anyways. Now, if this sounds a bit too much like gambling to you, you'd be right on the money, and you have just identified the central regulatory question. The FCA banned binary options contracts back in 2019 following the ESMA decision. However, this ban encompasses event contracts. However, people are still trading on these platforms because it is trivial for anyone remotely tech-savvy to access these platforms via VPN and other devices. Hence, we advocate to supervise, safeguard, and strengthen, because the price of inaction is threefold. In the absence of consumer safeguarding, prevention of crime, and market integrity measures, people are at risk of losing their money. For example, last year, a trader reportedly made $400,000 in a single night, betting on the capture of Venezuelan President Maduro. This exposes the central question, which is who is watching these markets for misuse and to what standard? Through regulation, we can prevent real harm.
So our solution, 2 regulatory bodies, the UKGC and the FCA, should jointly regulate this market, each playing to their own strengths. The FCA should take financial event contracts, and the UKGC should take sports and political betting style contracts, and implementation should be phased. Step 1, supervise. The UK government should instruct the FCA and the UKGC to build upon their memorandum of understanding and formalise collaboration. Second, safeguard. Define exactly which agency gets which market. And strengthen. Implementation should be phased. Institutional investors should get access to these markets first to ensure that proper protections are adhered to before we phase out to retail investors. Finally, we are not asking the UK government to invent a whole new regulator. We are asking them to build upon the infrastructure they already have. The framework exists, the harm is real, and the time to act is now. Thank you.
How many seconds? Perfect. 3 minutes on the nose. Fantastic. No marks deducted for that. But I know that the panel will have some questions for you. And I'm going to come to David first.
Well, of course, it's a live debate in the US in particular, after the events you described. Can you just tell us how, one of the issues is how you avoid insider trading and how you can spot and identify insider trading. And lots of people have lots of inside knowledge about a whole range of activities, and suddenly all of them are going to become bettable. Which regulator does it, and how are they going to do it?
We think that the FCA already has a robust toolkit to address insider trading. I think the Maduro example, and previously there was a ChatGPT example as well, where ChatGPT insider bet on the release of a new model. I think we have a robust understanding on how people act when they're insider trading, the amount of bets that are placed, the amount of confidence that each bet is placed with. You can detect that in real time and identify instances of insider trading versus instances of genuine informational edge.
Yeah. Louise?
Yes. So I suppose my kind of slight worry is that you don't want to go into sort of free-for-all. In a scenario where, certainly in this country, we're trying to get growth up and up and up, and by growth I mean sort of invest in the economy, get money out. I suppose what I'm just ever so slightly worried about, having been around in the middle of the banking crash, I remember Black Wednesday when everybody's mortgages went through the roof. It's a fine line, isn't it? How does this actually help the government's agenda for growth? And are you just, so I always ask the difficult questions, that's why Mark didn't allow me near the youth one. But how do you get the guardrails right, and who are you rewarding with this project? Like, who benefits from the legalisation of prediction markets in this country? Who's going to take money out of it? Is it me, the taxpayer, or is it a load of shareholders somewhere?
That's a really good question. So to address the potential risks, by regulating it, we hope to introduce, for instance, deposit safeguarding, right? So for instance, deposit protection up to a certain amount, which isn't currently present in these exchanges. Secondly, we also want age verification checks, right? So only people, who are above the age of 18 can actually participate in these markets. We believe that binary options contracts, like other options contracts, are an investment toolkit. While I or nobody else should endorse, unless you're a financial analyst, that is, the use of these options, we want them available for the UK retail consumer, because people who are well informed on these markets can make money, and it has been demonstrated.
But sorry to come back, but you're well informed. Is that good or bad? You say, how do you police this boundary between having an information edge and being an insider?
Well, I think a well-informed agent acts with the same amount of information available to everybody, right? For instance, I'm looking at historical data of CDOs back in 2008, and I'm seeing a crash that can happen. That's public available knowledge. Whereas if I'm an insider, I am in the war room, and I know beforehand that this operation is going to happen. and then I act before that. That's the sort of fine line between what I would consider insider knowledge and what I would consider sort of real informational edge.
Okay. Any more? Yes, you want something more to say?
I do think that prediction markets can add an information gathering toolkit in a sense that a lot of prediction sites are used by businesses, and also in the US, the election was so widely publicized on Polymarket that it's such a great way to gather what opinions the individuals have, that even anybody could just see what is on there and incorporate it in some way, which I think is a very beneficial way of prediction markets, is that you can just gather what people think.
Okay, I'm going to bring this to a close because fascinating. I've learned so much in the last 5 minutes, but a brilliant presentation. Thank you very much indeed to Atta and to Madison. Well done. Thank you very much indeed. Very good timing. Okay, number 3 on your song sheet is going to be solving the housing crisis. Well, that's going to be interesting, and they're going to do it with land value taxes. To explain all, please welcome Kevin Shea. So there he is. What do you study at King's, Kevin?
I'm in the Masters of Science of Economics and Policy program.
Okay, so do you know a lot about housing?
Yeah, I guess so.
Good, that's important for this.
In
All right, Kevin, you've got 3 minutes to solve the housing crisis starting now.
Okay, so I'm here to, as he said, tell you guys how to solve the housing crisis with land value taxes. And in order to talk about that, we're going to talk about Chris. You see, he's the median Londoner, and I'm sure no one in this room will be surprised to hear that over the course of his lifetime, he'll spend more than half of his income on housing. And that's increasingly true around the world, and it's only getting worse. That's really interesting, isn't it? More than half of your income on housing. That means that over the course of his career, Chris will earn fewer than 2 one-bedroom London flats. And that's especially interesting because actually Chris works in construction, and over the course of a 30-year career, he would provide enough labor hours to build more than 30 complete single-family homes. So why is that? Wouldn't we expect him to get maybe within an order of magnitude of the value he creates? Well, realtors can tell us the answer. If he builds these houses in the middle of nowhere, they're worth nothing, but if he builds them in Chelsea, they're worth £60 million. It's all about location, location, location. Because what we think of as housing is actually 2 pretty different assets bundled together. And you may remember them from your childhood. They are houses and the value of the land under the house forever. And you can't have one without the other. Well, you can't have the house without the land, I should say. And while houses break down, as cities become more and more attractive places to live, that land just becomes more and more expensive, which isn't great if, like Chris, you're just trying to live in the city where you work, but it is great if you're an investor. And as more and more of the money going to housing, as income inequality worsens, becomes investor money, it seeks out that land asset, driving up the price even more and making the problem even worse. And actually, we see this in the data. Thanks, UCL. On this chart, you can see the value of housing in total going up. That's the land plus the structure on top of it, very, very much. And that bottom line is how much the houses are worth. So that's not causing the problem. The difference between, something has gone wrong. The difference between those 2 lines is the housing value, is the land value. So how do we currently regulate this, and how should we regulate it? Right now, we just treat those 2 assets as if they're the same, and we levy taxes on the total value. But if you think about what that means, if we think about 2 lots where the land is worth the same amount in central London, and one of them is dead empty, and someone's just sitting on it so it can get more valuable, and the other has a big apartment building on it that a lot of families live in, we're taxing the useful apartment building land much more than we are the guy who's just trying to make money. And in the middle of a housing crisis, economists know that you shouldn't tax stuff that you want more of, because taxing stuff gets you less of it. So we should not tax the building on top of it. What we should do is just tax the land value. That's just recouping the value that the community around the land has created for the community. And it means that we're no longer penalizing home building, which means that we might wind up building more homes, and if he's lucky, maybe Chris can even afford to live in one. Thank you. I look forward to your questions. I love talking about this stuff.
Impressive. I really liked the Monopoly vibe going on there. How many seconds? 1 second. Pretty damn good. And that was with a glitch as well. So fantastic work, Kevin. Louise, I think we should start off on this.
I'm slightly obsessed with housing and homelessness, actually, Kevin. So sadly, you've come to a subject that's very close to my heart. What made you think that the solution was land taxes as opposed to anything else?
Well, there is actually a pretty long history of people pushing for land value taxes. Monopoly actually was invented by a woman specifically to teach this concept, so it's no surprise that I've used that to get the idea across. We're all kind of a little bit incepted by Lizzie McGee, who invented what she called the landlord's game at the time. And basically, the graph that I showed is the main reason why I think the best way to address the housing crisis is to address the land appreciating. I'm from New York. Obviously, London is experiencing some of the same problems as we are right now. And right across from the UN building in New York, there's a $600 million lot that has been empty for decades that is cleared to have thousands of housing units built on it, but they haven't been built on it because that land is just getting more and more valuable. And buildings are kind of hard to deal with, aren't they? I mean, they break down, you have to do maintenance. But if you just sit on land in Manhattan, you are going to get richer. So I think it's an issue that needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
Bobby.
Yeah, brilliant presentation, really clear. I loved the loved the motif of monopoly. Really got it across. I mean, I'm on the advisory board for a think tank that's looking at exactly. That was one of their main themes for this year is about land value tax. And I guess following on from Louise's point, if it's so obvious that this is the problem, why have we not done this before?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I bet you have your own opinions. To my mind,
Probably, yeah.
To my mind, in America, this became a really big deal around the turn of the 20th century. Right before the automobile was really coming into vogue, right? Prices were really high in New York. A man ran, his name was Henry George, for mayor. He beat Teddy Roosevelt in a race for mayor in New York, but they were both beaten by a third candidate. But his ideas were very popular, and he popularized the idea of the land value tax. Then, cars, right? I mean, we functionally could not expand cities as far as we could without the automobile, as we could with it. And so that brought some of the pressure down on how tightly valuable this land in the center of cities is. But here we are again. We have built out suburbs. We have suburban sprawl. It's not that great. Can't recommend it. And I think it's time to look at these ideas again, because now we can push public transit, help with the climate crisis, et cetera.
Deborah.
It's a great presentation, by the way. You talked about New York. How much land, relatively, is there in London, say, that is free and not used? With your example of the landlord who's just sitting on the land.
Yeah, so
how much unproductive land is there?
Fewer vacant lots here, which I think is a historical thing, right? London's been around for a longer time than New York has, so people have mostly been using that land. But I did go to Tesco the other day, and there is this huge asphalt lot right next to it. There's a lot of cars on it. But if they were charged for that land, they might put some of the cars under or above the ground with some kind of structure, I guess. And I think that would free up some additional land. The thing is that without charging anyone.
With a big car park?
What'd you say?
Where is the Tesco?
Oh yeah, I live a little bit south of the river, not too far, a little bit past Elephant and Castle. It's on Old Kent Road, which, fun fact, in Britain was the cheapest valued property in Monopoly for a long time. It's the brown lot, but is now a place where the land values are rising very high as well.
Okay, a fantastic presentation. We've been really treated tonight. Thank you very much indeed. Kevin O'Shea, everybody. Kevin O'Shea. I thought they were there. Thanks, Kevin. Excellent stuff. Right, number 4 is going to be on one of my favorite subjects, AI, but this is called Safe AI, Safeguarding Youth Mental Health in AI Platforms. And to tell us all about the idea, we have Malone Buckler. Malone, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm well. Tell me, what do you do at King's?
I study the Master of Science in Global Health, Social Justice, and Public Policy.
Right. I mean, does AI come into that, or are you going, going off piece?
Absolutely. Mental health is health.
Mental health is health. Very good point. Okay. So Malone, you have got 3 minutes on Safe AI, Safeguarding Youth Mental Health in AI Platforms, starting now.
AI is transforming how young people seek information, connection, and help. Today, 1 in 4 young people in the UK report using conversational AI for mental health support. At the same time, suicide remains one of the leading causes of death among UK youth, and 1 in 4 teenagers also report significant mental health challenges. Try and think of 4 young people important to you in your life. Statistically, one of them is likely deeply struggling, often in silence. Now, this is not just a hypothetical. This is Adam. At 16 years old, Adam tragically took his own life after confiding in an AI chatbot about his mental health. The stakes here are enormous, and the cost is young people's lives. Young people turning to AI for support is a structural response to a system that cannot meet demand. It currently offers something our system can't: immediacy and low barrier access. Over 78,000 young people are waiting over 1 year for treatment after referral to mental health services. For marginalized youth, even a waiting list can feel out of reach when services seem inaccessible, unsafe, or simply unavailable. We need to change the standard for how conversational AI is regulated. Safe AI, the Safeguarding Advisory Framework, offers a way forward. First, the Online Safety Act must be amended to include conversational AI within the policy scope, establishing duties of care for AI chatbots that are the same, if not higher, than other online platforms. Second, this framework implements mandatory youth advisory boards for any AI platform with young users. We need to set the standard for youth-informed design within the systems that young people are turning to for support. Now, this youth advisory is built on 3 foundational pillars that I call the 3 Rs: recognition, response, and redirection. Recognizing vulnerability, responding safely, and redirecting towards human care, ensuring that AI is only used as a bridge to support and never as a substitute. Lastly, the Safe AI framework establishes accountability through mandatory reporting to the Office of Communications and industry-wide evidence sharing on youth advisory board contributions. This framework acts on existing duties, structures, and protections already established in the Online Safety Act. It simply creates a scalable framework for real corporate responsibility that establishes youth safeguarding that is enforceable instead of optional. We know that young people are turning to AI for support, and so the system that answers should never fail them, and we have a duty to protect that, not just for the 1 in 4, but for the 4 in 4. Thank you.
Six seconds. Oh, God, whole other fact. Brilliant. That was, as you will know, this is a very hot issue right now, and it's being discussed in Parliament, I know. So, Deborah, I'm going to start with you on this one, if I may.
So, I mean, one of the barriers, I think, to doing this, is, I think, the grip that the tech companies have over government. Yeah. How would you overcome that?
Well, I think that the Online Safety Act already has that regulation in place. And what I'm proposing is not anything new or revolutionary. What I'm proposing is simply a way to evolve the Online Safety Act as technology evolves. And so we know that young people are using AI. And we know that there are lawsuits happening, not just in the UK, in California, and all around the world. And I would even go as far to propose that implementing this framework is more appealing to these companies that have such strong political power than the alternative of irreparable harm and lawsuits and death of their users that cannot be ignored any longer. And so I think that this is more enforceable than we like to think.
Just a quick follow-up on that, sorry.
Yeah.
Who pays for this as well? Do they pay for it?
Yes. So the responsibility is on the companies. And that is what this policy is proposing is novel. And so before we have youth advisory boards, we know that youth advisory boards work, but they're normally confined within charities and governments and other platforms that do not establish the same corporate responsibility. And so we know that these companies can afford a youth advisory board. It's not an insanely high cost. So this is very implementable at a company scale.
Interesting.
I mean,
David.
it is indeed a very hot topic at the moment, and the trends are all absolutely in your direction as the evidence of the danger becomes clear. One of the other problems is simply this is really international, not national. And I'd just be interested to know to what extent you think it can be done at the national level by national governments. Could you imagine the youth advisory boards in different countries reaching different assessments? To what extent can anything happen unless the US is on side? Just take us through the sort of the international angle of all this.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, obviously the Online Safety Act is a national policy, and so the way that this framework starts is national. But I cannot ignore the international attention that this problem is getting. I myself took inspiration from international leaders in safeguarding AI platforms, charity in Canada called Kids Help Phone. They're the #1 trusted charity in Canada, and they set policies, they influence policies exactly like this in Canada. And so just because countries around the world aren't doing the same thing doesn't mean that the UK government does not have this duty of care to protect their residents and thus influence policy globally as it goes forward.
Louise?
Just a sort of last question on this, because I think you have hit a nerve, actually, that I think as a country we're trying to find our way through this and feel that technology is much, much faster than our thinking. And so I think that's part of the issue. To be tough, though, I'm sort of sitting here thinking, I bet all these tech companies already have boards of young people that will sit and talk. They'll have boards of people that are parents. They'll have all of these corporate responsibility structures. They're not touching the sides on making sure that your 4 in 4 are able to protect the 1 in 4. So I suppose I just need a bit more understanding of why you think this particular model you're promoting will actually get traction.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple of examples of some advisory boards.
We have a slide popped up. So clever.
Now, obviously, the one thing that is highlighted here is that not all of them are youth. And the emphasis that I have on this policy is that it's youth voices inspiring the advisory that can drive change in these companies. We need youth advisory boards to bridge the knowledge gap between how these algorithms are inflicting harm on young people, because these algorithms are not trained with the voices of young people. Not a lot of people who are not young know the slang and the coded language and the lingo that young people use around sensitive topics. Young people are incredibly smart, and they know how to get around algorithms. And so this framework that I propose enforces youth voices at the center of our design so that we can keep up with technology as it evolves, because youth will be involved in the evolving.
That's an incredibly smart presentation. I'm sure everyone would agree with that, and just the kind of thinking we absolutely need. Thank you very much indeed to Malone, everybody. Well done. Very good. I hope you're all taking notes so that when you come to your judging, your critical judging a little bit later, you can remember everybody's brilliant pitches, and they all have been fantastic so far. We've got 3 to go. Next up, we're going to be discussing how to make local housing departments a key point of coordinated community response to domestic abuse. To help us with that, please welcome Nishi Joshi Bhatt. So what do you study here?
International development, undergrad.
International development, okay. Yeah, I can see how that fits. This is local housing departments, a key point for coordinated community response to domestic abuse. Really important. You've got 3 minutes to convince our judges that it would work, and your time starts now.
Domestic abuse is a widespread issue in the UK. Last year alone, there were 1.3 million reports of domestic abuse, mainly impacting women and girls. This has been estimated to cost the UK last year alone £79 billion. This is a huge number. Yet, currently, support structures in the UK mean that victims and survivors have to navigate a complex web of overburdened and underfunded local services, be they statutory or charitable, in order to access the housing, legal, financial, and healthcare support they need to escape and recover. Here, the issue of housing is particularly acute. Last year, refugees rejected 60% of applications they received, even though 70% of domestic abuse survivors have cited housing as a key barrier to escaping. Domestic abuse is a housing issue. The UK government is aware of this, with the Domestic Abuse Act that was enacted in 2021 rightfully stating that it is ultimately the responsibility of local housing authorities to deliver appropriate support to victims in the form of affordable, safe housing. Yet, 4 years on, victims and survivors face systemic barriers when approaching local housing authorities. This includes not even being able to get a hold of housing officers, being told incorrect information about the requisite requirements that they have to provide to get access to the support they are entitled to, such as priority need for a housing duty, as well as an overall lack of awareness and lack of trauma-informed approach towards domestic abuse. This shows a concerning juncture between national policy and delivery at the local level. I argue that to overcome this, we must mandate a domestic abuse champion within every local housing authority in England and Wales. This will work by delivering specialist training to an existing housing options officer, who will then be given the assigned responsibility to ensure colleagues better understand and can deliver on national legislation as well as best practice in trauma-informed support for domestic abuse. Additionally, the domestic abuse champion will form a critical link between housing authorities and external support agencies and professionals who work very closely with victims. Therefore, not only will this mandate increase the quality of direct support for victims and survivors, but it will also strengthen the much-needed multi-agency response we need in the UK to tackle domestic abuse. The costs are low and lie solely in training. I argue it is timing that is key. This is because the current government has big-picture missions to halve violence against women and girls over the next decade, as well as improve social housing. This is resulting in strides in investment, but I argue that mandating this now will ensure we build capabilities and we tackle systemic barriers so that new funding actually translates into meaningful change for people who most need it. Thank you.
Beautifully done. How many seconds? 10 you had 10 seconds. I'm going to use that 10 seconds to say that your slide of national policy equals with a line through it, delivery at local level. There is not a national politician in the country that is cheering at that particular slide. Who'd like to start us off? Bobby.
Yeah, brilliant, Nishi. I really loved that. That was really well, clearly explained such an important issue. And I love the clarity of domestic abuse being a housing issue is such an important point to make. And really clearly thought through how you can get this to work in practice. But I guess we flicked quite quickly over the costs of this.
Can we get back to that slide, actually?
Absolutely.
It was there so short.
Bam, bam. There we go.
There we are. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is the question. How much will this cost and what is the return on that sort of investment?
So the training actually already exists. There's already certified, CPD certified training that the Domestic Abuse Housing Alliance provides specifically for housing options officers and specifically for domestic abuse champions. And the courses are £2,000 per 20 people. Oh. So of course it's a question, if you have one champion per local authority, it would amount to travel costs to ensure, if you're trying to make this efficient, have more than one person per session. So that's why I've said estimated 60,000, which is still based on the idea that they receive 2 rounds of training in both the beginner level and then the champions training, which provides a way for them to not just be experts, so the champions themselves will be experts, but they can actually deliver that training to their teams. That's why you need to have both of the training implemented. And yeah, so it's pretty cheap as far as policies
So
go.
that's the training cost, but
Yes.
then you would hope that if people have got that training, they're paying more attention to the tasks involved. So it's actually going to take up more of their work time afterwards, or else there's no point in doing the training and not applying it, if you see what I mean. So what's the other costs involved in this?
So what this policy really is to upskill in a way that stops current barriers, which are like cultural barriers, or just, housing officers don't even know what the national guidance is. They often just give incorrect information to victims that are reaching out to them saying that, oh no, you need to provide proof of violence in order to get a housing duty. That's not the case. So even without extra work, just knowing that already reduces a barrier, if that makes sense.
That's a great answer, thank you.
Yeah, Deborah.
Yeah, it's actually about how the woman, because it will be a woman, reaches the support. So if it's in their local community, is that going to be a barrier? If it's their own housing officer, is that going to be a problem?
So right now, there's actually, I think it's the most recent strategy that the government has come up with, that actually you don't have to go to your literal local community in order to access domestic abuse support, because of course if the perpetrator's there, that's not where you're going to want to get support. So it's not expected for a local council to only provide support to people within that area when it comes to domestic abuse.
Know where to go then?
So of course, there are many local charities and they're called buy-in for organizations, and these are the specialist charities and community organizations that can either directly support victims or direct them towards housing officers. And I agree, that's
and they're
what's
then
a huge,
signposting you.
They would be the signposters, as well as the housing officers themselves. Because say when I was researching for this, you just look up, oh, on a council website, this is what I'm going through, how do I get housing support? That's where the information is provided, but it's also what needs improving on. So at least giving housing authorities that awareness can help them translate that awareness to victims.
Louise, you want to come in?
Yeah, sorry, conscious of time, Mark, but I think it's really, really interesting that people's housing rights, particularly when it comes to domestic violence, is still misunderstood. And I agree entirely that empowering and skilling up people to understand, you don't have to be bruised to experience domestic violence, and therefore to be able to consider about possibly being rehousing. I suppose I wondered what took you to housing. So if you're trying to solve domestic violence overall, there are in addition other things to think about. Fresh start in new housing definitely is important. It's not often the first thing that a woman will think about. I suppose I'm also thinking, what took you there in terms of social policy? Because I sometimes think, yes, of course I'll take housing. I'll also take getting the man removed from the house so I can stay there and my children can go to the same school. So there are different methods, I think, to tackle domestic violence. And why did you alight on housing and housing options as being one of them?
So I looked at where the gap is, basically, and a lot is already being done in terms of crimes and justice. So when it comes to making sure that the perpetrator's out of the house, that's where funding tends to be going right now. Like the current strategy, the majority of funding is going towards improving criminal justice for women, based on what I've researched. Housing's just overlooked, or this intersection. Of course, actually needing to build affordable housing, social housing, is a key priority of the government, but not in terms of domestic abuse. So that's why I looked at that. And at the end, it's called domestic abuse, like it's in the house, and it's sort of obvious, but it's not considered. And if you can't leave, you can't escape. Like, it's such a basic thing.
David, did you want to come in very briefly?
Just to say that sometimes what looks like stupid bureaucracy is actually disguised rationing. It's people whose supply of housing is not sufficient for all the different local demands that are coming their way. And I guess the question is whether this one person being retrained changes the way housing officers allocate rationed housing. And let's face it, at the back of some of them are an intense and genuine problem, and they're going to find that's hard enough for them at the moment, isn't it?
You're spot on, and that's actually what the research also says. They call it gatekeeping, so it's almost a practice in order to be able to give this limited resources out in a way and sort of cut people off before they can even access it. So of course, this needs to be done alongside actually building more affordable housing, actually improving the state of refuges. But if we only go on the funding side, we're also not going to tackle the cultural side. So it's something that needs to be done alongside other improvements.
You've obviously engaged our judges hugely, and we could talk, I'm sure, a great deal more. It's a huge issue and a really important one. So thank you very much indeed. Tanishi, everybody. Well done. Our penultimate pitch is due. We're going to be hearing about combating marital violence in India now, and to help us with that, please welcome Srishti Sridhara. Hi, Srishti. How are you feeling?
Nervous.
You're very nervous, and do you know what 3 minutes is like? Have you challenged yourself against the clock?
I do. My mentor has been very helpful.
Very helpful on the time. Yeah. We shall find out how you do in a moment, because you have 3 minutes on combating marital violence in India, and that starts now.
This is the Gulabi gang. a group of 300,000 women in Uttar Pradesh wearing pink color saris, carrying bamboo lathis. They're basically like Batman, but instead of fighting crime in Gotham, they fight domestic violence in India, specifically marital violence, where one woman dies every 60 minutes due to abuse. And more than 40% of the victims are from low-income and rural communities. They face a unique set of challenges, which is a higher risk of abuse, a higher probability of social abandonment, and also risking their loss of their custody over children. Another thing is they have minimal access to resources and are often turned away by law enforcement by saying it's a family dispute. Now, this is why we require Project Shakti. Project Shakti is based on 3 pillars. Shakti in Sanskrit translates to strength, and that's the core of this policy. Strength in communities based on 3 pillars. 1, improving access to legal resources. 2, improving having self-help groups. And 3, and the most important, increasing prosecutions. The first pillar is support networks. This includes community groups of all women above 18 plus, facilitated by ASHA or community workers, to break the normalization of abuse by raising awareness and also breaking the loop of isolation that abusers often rely on. The second is increasing prosecutions. 1, by including protection officers who are specially trained to combat violence against women. And 2nd, by including community reporting so women aren't often left alone and cannot be turned away at police stations. The third, and the most important, is improving access to resources. Now, India has several resources for victims, but victims don't have access to them. By connecting them to Nari Adalats or women courts or legal lawyers, they have access to compensation, to employment, to ration cards, which breaks the codependency that they have on abusers. Now, unfortunately, things require money, but India has money, which is severely underutilized by the National Health Mission, Ministry of Women and Child Development, and Nirbhaya Fund, which use only 20% of the funds that they have. And now, their implementation at the national level is going to be done by the Ministry of Women and Child Development, and in the district level, which is the lowest level, by protection officers and community workers. Thank you so much. This project wants to give back Shakti to the survivors, a strength and power over their own lives.
Very good, thank you. You did very well. We haven't had a single whistle all evening. I feel slightly cheated. Anyway, thank you, Sristi. Yes, Deborah.
Why is this not happening already when there are all these mechanisms in place and the funding is there and I mean, it's all very sensible and very good, and you've got all those women, that sort of army of bat women, or however you describe them, but why is it not happening?
First of all, I'd like to apologize about the slides. I had a lot of pretty pictures and animations that I think got lost in the technical glitches.
Don't worry, they were fine. Yeah. They were absolutely fine.
Don't say things like that.
No, it's fine.
Absolutely
don't worry.
fine.
We don't know what we're missing.
Don't tell
That's true. Thank you so much. But so last summer, I had the privilege with working with a lot of survivors of domestic abuse back in my city. My mom's a gynecologist, so she also works with domestic abuse survivors, and she told me that, okay, if you're conducting research in communities in India, you might as well work on the ground. So that led me to Vimochana. And I remember on my first day there was a huge table with 7 men and 1 lady clad in a burqa. She was 17, her husband was 43. First of all, child marriage is illegal in India. Second of all, the 7 men were all above the age of 25 from both her family and her husband's family, forcing her to go back to her abuser, who had previously admitted her in the hospital and taken custody of her 3 children. She was not allowed to see her parents. She was not allowed to visit a hospital. Neither was she even allowed to step foot outside the house without her mother-in-law's permission. Abuse in that household was supported by women in the family, by the victim's own family, and her husband. Now, when it comes to cases like this, when the victim is not allowed to step foot outside the house and is supported by an entire society, how can you expect them to go to the police? And I actually had this question, which was also quite sensible to me, and this was something that I kept wondering for a good month. So this is evidence. In Jharkhand, in the rural areas, often single women are believed to be witches, and they're often hunted down and prosecuted. And to combat this, there was a study which basically took around 19 groups of women, all above the age of 18, put them into different groups, and had one person from a city come in, talk to them about her experiences, how she's educated, how there are these frameworks about how this is illegal, how they can't get married until the age of 18, how they're entitled to go to school. And this actually saw a huge change, almost a 2/3 jump, where women were regained their own sense of autonomy and stood up against these practices. So there would be these elders of the village going, oh my God, no, she's not normal, she's a witch. But then these women who were in these groups actually stood up to that. The main problem with why this is not being used is because women don't know about them. It's like me asking everyone in the audience, do you know what's behind that wall? If you don't know about these resources, you can't access them. And that's the main issue that this policy aims to fix, access to resources.
Very, very powerful. Anyone else got a question for fantastically passionate and fascinating presentation. Thank you very much indeed for your presentation. Thanks to Christy. Thanks a lot. Right, the last pitch of the evening, and it's the largest pitch of the evening. We have a quartet. Could I welcome onto the stage Jade Highland, Ola Ahmed Eburi, and Sabina Meyer and Ty Braddock, who are we're going to come and talk to you about Progress Praise, a pastoral policy for pastoral professionals. Welcome to you all. Very good. We're running a bit behind time, so we'll crack on. You've got 3 minutes, the four of you. I reckon that's about 50 seconds each. Off you go. Your 3 minutes starts now.
Professionalised Progress Praise, a pastoral policy for pastoral professionals. They wear many hats. They give practical advice to students, they have counselling skills, safeguarding expertise, anti-bullying responsibilities, they monitor student data and correspond with social services. But what is needed to obtain this role? An enhanced background check only. There's also a systemic behaviour crisis in Britain's schools, and pastoral staff are positioned in the centre with the burden. How can we expect them to best support most vulnerable students with no training and low pay? They are clearly underprepared, underpaid and undervalued. What we need is a national framework, structured pay progression and formal recognition to equip pastoral staff like our Ola to best support our most vulnerable students.
I would like to tell you all a story. I have worked as a secondary school teacher and head of year over the last 6 years. My passion for pastoral care and supporting our most vulnerable and disadvantaged students led me to pivot in my career. A young boy I worked with in recent years, we'll call him Andre, had a single mother and a father in prison. He'd been exposed to crime and gangs and found it very hard to trust the adults around him. He was also a recipient of free school meals, a common indicator for childhood poverty. Despite his challenging circumstances, Andre had great dreams of going on to university and making something of himself. What helped Andre thrive and realize his potential was having access to pastoral support consisting of social, emotional, and mental health interventions. The work we did together helped regulate his anger and his behaviour, something that is not widely available or incorporated in schools without a robust pastoral care system. I have told you a story today about one Andre. I ask you to consider the moral imperative we have to equip our most vulnerable young people with the tools, resources, and role models to better their life outcomes, academically, but also holistically, because there are so many more Andres out there that need professional pastoral support.
So we have a three-part mechanism to tackle this. Our first part is professionalise. Teachers, on average, get about 3 years of training. Pastoral staff get nothing. And pastoral staff, unless you're working in education, you probably don't know what they do. So we're proposing a 2-year training and mentoring framework that we're going to pilot and then eventually roll out nationally. Further to that, we want to talk about progress, which means pay and training. Teachers, on average, get this salary, but pastoral staff get this salary. It's a stark difference. So we're pitching the creation of a pay band progression structure for pastoral staff and training which allows them to specialise. And finally, pastoral staff are at the bottom of a two-tier education system at the moment, and they're misunderstood, and we need to praise their expertise by involving them in inspection processes and evaluation processes, and eventually a national award for excellent pastoral care in schools. So, crucially, increased pastoral support leads to a decline in all types of misbehaviour and increased achievement and attainment.
There are 4 phases to solution. The first phase is to identify the issues and co-design it. The second phase is to deliver our solution to one trust and across many. The third is to review so our solution is scalable. And lastly, national implementation. People like our Ola deserve to be valued, respected, and capable. They're the experts, and we need to treat them as such. Thank you very much.
Very good.
No, the whistle works. The whistle works.
Just checking the trap door to England. Just about, I can hear it creaking, but no, you just scraped inside. Very well, a really interesting presentation, a really important topic. So you were right to use all the time that you had available to you. David.
This is, it's a fascinating presentation and makes us think afresh about the issue. The endless dilemma with these is you're trying to reach out to people who are authentic, rooted, have had these experiences. That's why they are providing pastoral advice. Is there a danger that if you professionalize it and have 2 years training, that you create new barriers and some of the very people from outside with real experience who you want to be the direct voice of pastoral care get winnowed out by your process?
I think that's a really good question, and it's something worth considering, but also something that we are quite passionate about is elevating the status of pastoral staff. So whilst we do give a lot of credibility to people that have entered that workforce with their experience, the elevation of the profession itself, I think, perhaps takes a higher precedent than any barriers that may exist. And I think the people that are particularly passionate about entering the pastoral workforce, they will overcome those barriers because it requires passion to work with the young people that we've been discussing tonight.
Okay, who else?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, brilliant. Really well done. Hard to get it all across with 4 people, but you got the story across really well. And obviously connections between different presentations tonight and the need for more of that human connection alongside all these technological solutions that we're getting pushed at us too right now. I mean, the question is obviously, I'm only going on about cost. I'm a real misery about cost. But I do have to ask the cost question, being involved in schools, knowing the pressures they're under. Lots of schools going bust, so where are they going to find the money for this?
So the Education Policy Institute originally proposed that it would take about £210 million per year to introduce an ECT training programme. We're arguing, accounting for inflation, because the research came out in 2021, we're arguing for £220 million per year. That can vary phase by phase. What we're also arguing is that this is 0.3% of the education budget, and in general, pastoral care increases the achievement and attainment of our young people so massively that we would argue that it's worth that cost, and it varies, of course, phase by phase.
And in addition to this, we're currently in a society where education is a commodity in many instances, and parents are the consumer, and they're choosing places to send their children based on these league table scores. So as Ty already said, there is research to say that increased pastoral support will directly impact student attainment. But not only that, within the system, we can also use our policy to develop and increase the experience for the whole child holistically.
Excellent. Any more from the judges?
If I could just also add, part of the funding that we hope to receive, I'm not sure if, I'm sure most of you will be familiar, pupil premium is an incentive given to schools in England. What we were hoping to do is decentralize it and use that income, not all of it, of course, but because it is largely unregulated, it's very difficult to keep track of where the pupil premium is going. We would like to use some of that to roll out a pilot program in order to see the benefit of the pastoral care system across particularly deprived schools in England.
It's another fantastic presentation. I really like the fact that you made it personal and there was a real passion in what you were saying, as well as providing some of the real detail of how the policy might work. Thank you very much indeed to our quartet, ladies and gentlemen. Right, you have now seen all 7 contenders for the glittering prize that is Policy Idol 2026. So the judging panel will now enter their conclave where they'll only be allowed to drink mid-priced wine until such time as they have completed their deliberations and white smoke pours forth. Don't forget, you're involved in doing the audience prize. We're slightly later than we intended, so you don't have that long. Make sure you get your votes in. Thank you very much indeed, and good luck with eating those snacks.
I think he's almost bang on time.
We're on time. We're good.
Yeah,
right.
In fact, slightly ahead.
I
think so, yeah.
We've got time, I think. You're doing 8 o'clock.
I'm fine till 8, so I can do this and then I'll slip out. I need to leave at 8 at the latest, but I can...
Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. Please take your seats for what will be a tumultuous end to tonight. We are but moments away from learning who is the winner of Policy Idol 2025. To present the prizes, it's my pleasure to ask Bobby to join me here on stage. The first prize that we are going to present is the prize for style. And I can tell you that the winner of the Policy Idol 2026 Style Prize are Atta and Madison! Come on up. Where are you? Keep clapping, keep clapping, keep clapping. Happiness, that's what we're after. Very good, very happy. Thank you very much indeed, and many congratulations to Atta and Madison. Right, the second prize tonight is the prize for substance. I can tell you that the winner of the Policy Idol 2026 prize for substance is Malone!
Probably doesn't miss it.
Well done. Many congratulations.
It doesn't matter in this thing.
You get your certificate and you get your photo taken. Go forward, and now you have to look happy, apparently. Happy, happy, happy. Yeah, happy. Great stuff. Have they been happy enough? That's the greatest. Oh, marvellous. That's happiness all over. Thank you. Well done, Malone. Top work. Right. The next prize is, of course, the most important one of all, which is the audience prize. Which pitch the people in this room thought was the most persuasive. And I can tell you that the winner of the audience prize of Policy Idol 2026 is, well, welcome back, Atta and Madison! Well, hello again. Very well done. Yeah, happy, happy, happy. Yeah, happier in the middle, please. Yeah. Can't you just use the old one? Anyway, different certificate. Fantastic. Well done to Atta and Madison. 2 awards. Right. And now the moment we have all been waiting for. The announcement of the overall winner, the champion of Policy Idol 2026. And I can tell you that the winner of Policy Idol 2026 is Alia and Ina! And look at that big check. Massive check. Come on, hurry up, hurry up. You go. Fantastic stuff. 1,000 crackers. Look at that. And a certificate and an award. Are you able to look happy, happy, happy? That's what he's going to want. Oh my goodness, it's all going so well. That way a bit. See that check? Look at that. It's a massive one. Happy, 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 everybody. Round of applause, I think. We'll give them a... Listen to that noise. Well done. Many, many congratulations. This is life-changing, you realise that. Not only that, but you're going to have to do a video for next year. Oh, you want me in as well? Okay, well, happy, happy, happy. Very good. Oh, well, that's fantastic. Well, many congratulations to our £1,000 winners, Alia and Ina. I'd now like to invite King's College Senior Vice President Rachel Mills to say a few words about tonight's splendid event. Rachel.
Thank you. So, hang on. Wow, that was just so impressive. So, as Mark said, I am the Senior Vice President Academic here at King's College London. I'm here representing the university. It is a privilege to host this event. It's a privilege to host it this year again, and so exciting each year to feel the energy in the room. I walked in tonight into this great hall, and I could just hear you all talking about the pitches, talking about the excitement, talking about what you'd heard. And I realized something really special has happened tonight. And Policy Idol has an amazing reputation, both here at King's, but also across the sector, and actually across London, and growing across the world, as something where our students are doing something really brave, they're really imaginative, and it's clear that this year, we've done something really extraordinary. And you are wrestling with some of the most important questions for society, things that I know our panel are thinking about all the time, but things such as housing, how AI is going to disrupt everything, domestic violence, mental health, community life, the way we care for and support each other. And to distill that into 3 minutes is extraordinary. I certainly can't do that. But it's to distill things down in front of a panel that would probably scare most people, and it requires that courage. It requires clarity and constraint, something that will take you forward, whatever you go on to do. But it's something that good policy making demands. And it's events like this that make us really proud to be King's. It makes me really proud to work here. Seeing our students testing ideas, they've come out of the classroom, come out of their thinking, challenging things, challenging the orthodoxy, turning knowledge into that real world impact. And that is what education is all about. That is what universities are all about. Now, nearly 1,000 students have now taken part in Policy Idol over the many years. And of course, there are many more students than you see here on the stage. And many of them have gone on, as we saw in the video earlier, to change things in health, in government, in charities, in business. And you finalists tonight have joined a rather formidable alumni club. And I loved that video earlier to see how Sophie has taken forward her idea. And we take some responsibility there for helping you do that. So the winners tonight, please do get in touch, because we at King's can help you with those connections, help put you in touch with the right people. We can pilot things locally, and then you can take them out across wherever you need to take them. So please do that and follow up with me. So really, I just want to end by saying thank you for every student who was brave enough to enter. That is just extraordinary. And the many, many of you that didn't make it to the stage. It takes real nerve to do that. Thank you for all of the colleagues who mentored those students. That mentorship is absolutely invaluable and did the sort of development along the way. Thank you for the Policy Institute. Bobby Duffy leads that. You've done an amazing job tonight, as ever. Thank you to our brilliant judges of Baronesses and Lords. Extraordinary. Thank you to Mark for once again doing an amazing job comparing this. None of this would be possible without that collective effort that makes it so special. So, to you finalists, whether you won or not, it's not about the prize. And this is the beginning, not the end. You will all go on to amazing things. Your ideas are all exceptional. And you've been put through an amazingly tough filter. So please keep testing those ideas. Please keep improving them. Please keep irritating those of us in management by challenging us. We really, really welcome that. And I think if you can leave a university by being able to stand up, being able to explain a problem in 3 minutes, and then propose something better as an outcome, you will go far. So, thank you. I just wanted to really end by saying thank you to everyone for coming, for being such an amazing audience, and you will all walk away with some new ideas tonight. Share them with your friends, share them with your family when you get home, share them over the next weeks, over the next year, because it's through that communication we can change the world. Thank you.
Oh, your phone. Yeah, there we are, Rachel. Policy Idol is almost at a close. If I could add my congratulations to all, not just the winners, but all our potential idols this evening, who in a world increasingly run by AI have collectively restored our belief in the power of human ingenuity. A huge Policy Idol thank you to our judges who gave up their time to bring wisdom and insight to our proceedings tonight. Thank you to all of you for some really top-class whooping and some pretty good hollering as well. And thank you also for your hard work in finding our audience winner this evening. I would ask that all finalists stay for a few photos, but to everyone else, I've been doing this 12 years. Every year I feel the same at this point. It's been a wonderful, wonderful evening. Farewell. Have a safe journey home. Thanks very much, everybody.